Her first memory was like that, a universal blessing. A smiling father and a mother trying to throw her out. She screams that she didn't want to give birth to someone like her. It was the poor unfortunate girl who didn't want a mother named Persephone. Her mother didn't want to deal with her, and the girl remembered that forever. There have been many rumors about the newly emerged goddess nearly dying. Many say she was like her father, as cold-blooded and cruel as Hades. When the carrier of souls, Charon, was sailing down the river, transporting souls to the underworld of the dead, he saw a girl on the shore. He said hello to Lucalis. When she noticed him, she moved closer to the shore and also said hello to Charon. She asked if he was busy right from the morning. The man explained that death had no days off. The girl agreed with him. The souls who rode in the boat regretted their actions, and they realized that this was the end. Many blamed others for their fate, but not themselves. Charon suddenly spoke up and said that Hades had not been seen for a long time. The girl said that her father had been very busy lately. And it's all thanks to someone who is having fun instead of working, Lucalis told him. Charon explained that Persephone needed a little more time to gather her thoughts. At this point, the girl jumped into his boat and said that these dead men looked like soldiers because they all had great physiques. She assumed that another war had broken out somewhere on Earth. The people on the boat didn't understand who the girl was, so they started whispering. Charon said that from what these souls said, they were not bad fighters and things were going well. The girl said that she understood everything, and that they were not like those who only pay lip service to being good. Besides, said Lucalis, it's probably pretty hardy. Believed they died in the morning and went to the underworld. Well, then that must mean they are very weak. But then all of a sudden one of the souls said that she was letting herself go a lot. The same man said that there was a lot she didn't know yet, and there was no one who could overpower them yet. But the girl did not listen to them. After the man was silent, she said, "It's no use. After all, they are dead now." The people, when they heard this, agreed with her. One of the warriors drew his sword and held it up to the girl, telling her to cover her mouth. In the underworld, there is only death. Such is the life received. Glory in the kingdom means nothing. It is like stones underfoot. But as the warrior tried to hit the girl, he realized his body wasn't moving. He couldn't do anything to her. He just froze. In the realm of the dead, they cry out for things like fame and prestige, but it's all nothing more than empty sound. Lucalis told the souls that they would meet anyway, and it was even better for her that it was early. The girl said that they would now head to the fields of Asphodel. The fields of Asphodel are part of the realm of the dead, where neutral souls reside. They are worthy of paradise, and have done nothing so bad as to be in the fields of punishment. The girl said these fields are neutral. This is her territory. The souls did not understand what was happening. They were scared. Then the girl asked why they were silent, and then she snapped her fingers and they were now able to move and talk, so they were very happy. But the girl, on the other hand, was annoyed. Some of the souls asked who she was, really. The girl said that she was the daughter of Hades and was the goddess of rebirth. I'm shocked because they thought goddesses were mysterious and elegant, and the girl was a little different. She said her name was Lucalis, said it wasn't a big deal. She's been losing to Thanatos all the time lately. Afterward, Lucalis asked if they even knew how to use knives, and then started asking a lot of different questions as Charon dropped them off and sailed for the next batch of souls. She asked what the parents were doing, how many people they'd killed at a time. After a short question, she told them to follow her, and if they lagged behind, Cerberus would eat them. Cerberus is a three-headed dog that guards the way out of the realm of the dead. One man looked to the side and noticed some interesting construction. He asked Lucalis what the place was. The girl explained that it was paradise, which is called Elysium, but she herself had never been there. Persephone rules there. When the man asked why she never went there, the girl said it was none of his business, and they moved on. In fact, Hades fell in love with Persephone at first sight, the goddess who never gave him a single smile. And there was only one reason. She never wanted him. Persephone said there was a place in the underworld where only heroes go, and it realized that she meant Elysium, and then the girl asked that he give it to her and never come again, because she doesn't want to see Hades himself or his daughter Lucalis. Sitting in her realm, the goddess of suffering and worry, Oasis and whatnot, should have given slack after all, and she fears that by doing so, they will create a bigger problem. The goddess suggested that she might have traveled to Tartarus again. Tartarus is the deepest abyss beneath the realm of Hades, and serves as a prison. The goddess of discord, Eris, was surprised to hear these words, and said that Oasis should have kept a better eye on Lucalis. But the goddess was angered by these words, and she wondered if the girl had ever listened to them. In fact, there are many more gods in the underworld than one might think. Oasis turned to the god of eternal darkness, Erebus, and asked for him to say something as well. The gods originally lived in the golden palaces and enjoyed entertainment. Erebus said that Lucullus's peers were acting the same way. But one of the goddesses objected, and said that no god plays around by smashing skulls and tying Cerberus by the tail. But their mirth was over since Lucullus was born, and they came together expecting her. Ares, in answer to the goddess, said that at that age Hermes had stolen Apollo's cows. One of the gods said that the comparison to him was rather offensive. The second confirmed and said that Hermes did not see the boundaries then. But suddenly the messenger of the god Hermes came into the hall and asked if he was the one they were talking about. The goddess asked what he was doing here, and Hermes replied that he had come to give them, on behalf of Lucullus, a chair that was made of gold. Very surprised when they heard that it was made of gold, and then Hermes began to take out of his big sack what the girl had handed him. When he showed everyone this beautiful table, he said that it was just a work of art, and besides, all the materials for it Lucullus chose herself. Hermes said, just so they wouldn't think it was bribery, she did it sincerely. All the gods moved closer to get a closer look at him. Oasis stood aside and said that there are souls at the very bottom of Tartarus that even Zeus can't handle. The goddess isn't going to let her get away with this, and she wants the girl to answer for it. And Oasis will speak firmly and confidently. At this time, Lucullus was walking and wondering if the gods had already received her gift. If something was forbidden to her, the desire to do it only increased. She is now in Tartarus, at the very bottom of the underworld, along with those who have earned the wrath of the gods, the sinners. There is Tantalus, Sisyphus, Titius, Ixion, Titan, and others. These names are very easy to remember, for there are not many of them, but seeing them is much harder. When Lucullus tried to enter them, the guard told her not to go into Tartarus for anything, because just like Oasis said, such a young goddess would easily be torn apart there. Of course she listened to them half-heartedly, because she wasn't going to follow their rules anyway. One day, as she was walking through Tartarus, she heard someone's voice complainingly asking to be given water. When the girl turned around, she realized it was Tantalus. He cannot eat or drink until he dies because he tried to test the gods by boiling broth from his son. Then Lucullus pulled out his water bottle and asked if he really wanted to take a sip. Tantalus said what he wanted out of it more than anything, and thanked her. But the girl opened the bottle and started pouring it on the ground, because punishment is not given for nothing, and the gods are fair enough. When the girl poured the entire contents of the bottle on the ground, then asked him if he remembered that his punishment wasn't over yet, and then went on her way. There was no way the gods would show mercy to those who tried to test them. And even if the girl had given him water, he would not have been able to drink it. But in Tartarus, there's someone dumber and more amazing, namely Sisyphus. That's who Lucullus went to see. When she saw him, she asked him how he was doing today. Sisyphus remained silent and simply began pushing the stone back up the mountain. He was trying to fool Zeus and Hades, a man who desperately wanted a second life. Well, all his efforts are futile because as soon as the stone reaches the top, it will immediately roll down and he will have to start all over again. Sisyphus, doomed for his life to push this stone, finally managed to push it all the way to the top, but as expected, it rolled down. Sisyphus was angry that the girl was watching him, and asked how many times he could be reminded that this was no place for a goddess. In fact, he's the stupidest sinner in Tartarus. Lucullus told him that even though he spoke or didn't speak, she still wouldn't listen to him. While judging in his realm, the supreme god of death and the underworld, dead Hades, asked how man dared to deceive the gods. He turned to Thanatos and asked where he was looking at that moment. Thanatos said he had no excuse and apologized for it. He also told Hades that he would do his best to make sure it never happened again, and he would long pay for trying to deceive the gods. At that moment, Lucullus was standing outside the door, peeking in on the whole thing. She didn't understand how Sisyphus could dare to question the authority of the gods, but it amazed her. When the stone fell, Sisyphus started down the mountain to pick it back up. Lucullus ran after him and asked, "Are you just going to leave like that? You could have said hello properly." The girl asked if he would slow down a bit. Sisyphus said that then there would be no point in punishment. Lucullus asked when he would start listening to her already. Sisyphus turned and said that apparently she had a lot of free time on her hands. When he asked why she wasn't performing divine duties, the girl replied that she was still young so she could skip out. Sisyphus said that if that was the case, it was better to let her come back and practice properly. The girl said that this was her home. There was an awkward silence after that, but Sisyphus immediately turned around and began to get back to work. Lucullus told him to stop and rest some more because he was very interesting to talk to. At that moment he remembered how Zeus had tormented her lover and said that all gods see no boundaries. They all do only what they want, and even taking care of people is just a common deception so they don't offend the gods. Zeus was furious when Sisyphus deceived him. He didn't understand how some wretched man could deceive a god. Sisyphus turned to the girl and said that he despised their kind. After that they were silent again. But Lucullus asked him what exactly he hated. This made Sisyphus even angrier, and he said he'd just talked about it. The girl asked, "Isn't she awe-inspiring? Isn't she amazing?" Sisyphus looked at her attentively. Then the girl told him to kneel before her. People raise livestock to praise the gods. Lucullus asked him if he had ever wondered why they killed animals. When they gave Sisyphus his sentence, Hades said it was up to him to decide his fate, and then the gods said that he would rot the rest of his life in Tartarus. But Sisyphus never once trembled before the gods. Punishment is only real when people fear it. But Sisyphus did not answer her question, and she said that it appeared that he would never pay for his sins, and that he acted as if he were not a man at all. As he was leaving, Lucullus said that he wouldn't be able to leave that horrible place for the rest of his life. Yeah, she thought so. That wasn't even bad news for her. When Sisyphus heard this, he was angry with the girl. But then he thought, what can I take from her? After all, she is still a child. In return, he shouted that she had better go back, because he had heard that she treasured her child very much. The girl said that her father would not swear, and it was all right. Then Sisyphus said her mom would be worried. But Lucullus said she was playing with Adonis, so it was no big deal. As they climbed up the mountain, he asked if she had any brothers or sisters. The girl said Adonis was just a regular human boy, but lately her mom had been crazy about him. Lucullus got angry and said that she was not a child but a goddess, and by the third day after birth she could walk and talk. Elysium is the place to which the great heroes come, the place of bliss where Persephone dwells all the time. While vacationing with Adonis, Persephone said she had only him, and then asked, "And you have only me, right?" She looked him in the eye and told him that if only Aphrodite hadn't been there, they could have been together forever. And then she kissed him. Sisyphus did not understand how it was possible to leave her husband for another. Lucullus asked, "What is strange about a god inviting a man he likes to join him?" But Sisyphus thought it was utter nonsense. The girl asked him not to try to make her understand human feelings, because she liked freedom. Sisyphus retorted that not knowing loneliness, she was talking about freedom. "You can't say that's wrong, goddess." After this, Sisyphus continued to drag out his punishment, and the girl left Tartarus and lay down to rest in the forest. She thought that she would take revenge on him again. Suddenly Hermes asked if she had been to Tartarus again. The girl ran up to him and asked if he had given him the golden throne. She also asked if that was enough for them not to get angry anymore. Hermes answered that he did not know, but at any rate she was still small, and asked when she would grow up. Lucullus jumped to her feet and said that she wasn't small at all. She said, "Hear and know, and only Eros is like her." Normally gods take a week to a month to mature. There were only two among them who failed to do so. Eros and Lucullus were one of them. Eros has golden arrows that evoke love and lead arrows that evoke hate. Psyche? They say she surpasses my beauty. They seem to be blind fools. How dare they compare me to a human being? Asked the goddess of beauty, Aphrodite, to her lover. Then she called Eros, and asked him if he knew where a girl named Psyche lived, and if he could fulfill his mother's request. The boy replied that he would have no problem doing anything. Then Aphrodite asked him to make Psyche love the most disgusting man on earth. But Eros, when he saw her, immediately fell in love, so he pierced himself with an arrow. Hermes said that he did it because he was amazed by her beauty. Hermes said that if it was true, there was a problem. Then he asked what the point of this story Lucullus had told him was. The girl assumed it was Psyche's beauty. Hermes said the meaning was different. Eros was smitten by Psyche's beauty and pierced himself with a golden arrow, so he grew instantly. Hermes asked if the girl knew how gods become adults. Lucullus said that when a god falls in love, he immediately grows up. Hermes said that by having tender feelings for Psyche, Eros grew, so she too could grow if she loved someone. He said that often gods are quick to know the feeling. The girl immediately interrupted him and said that she knew what love was, and she already had a lover. Hermes was very surprised and asked who it was. Lucullus said that this person is the Pope. Hermes answered that it is not platonic love, so it does not count. The goddess said she would be able to marry Papa. He looked at her carefully, then wished his niece luck. But the girl still didn't understand what was wrong. After all, her mother had Adonis. But suddenly a voice interrupted their conversation. Oasis ran up to them, and when Lucullus saw her, she asked if they liked her gift. But the goddess shouted to her that Erebus had said that if she didn't come now, she would get a trident in her ass. When the girl heard this, she was upset and angry. She asked why he would do that. Oasis asked how she dared on her own to go to Tartarus alone. At that time, Hermes climbed up a tree so as not to interfere with the family squabbles. The goddess took the girl's hand and began to lead her home. Lucullus said, apparently because of his long life, he couldn't be bribed with anything. Since birth, Eros has seen his mother have fun with many men. The same goes for Lucullus. Love she saw, with kidnapping, withholding, and coercion. As they walked along, the girl asked the goddess, didn't she like this gift? It's a golden chair made by Hephaestus himself. Hermes wondered if these children could understand true and sincere love. When the goddess answered her nothing, the girl asked, how come? Then Oasis told her to just follow her. When they got home, it was just awful because Oasis was determined and grumbling the whole time. The goddess said that the succession ceremony would be held very soon, and asked why Lucullus was always meddling where he couldn't. The goddess kept cursing, and Arab just sat and watched it. The girl did not understand why he did not stop the goddess, but just sat shamelessly on the golden throne he had given her. Usually, when Oasis fights, he stands up for the girl. When Lucullus explained the whole situation to Charon, you said that it was too much, and asked him what he thought. But Harun didn't answer anything, but simply asked, is that why you joined me today? The girl confirmed. To keep the conversation going, the man said that he had heard that these golden chairs were made by Hephaestus. Lucullus said, or else where speech and bugs don't appreciate it. And then she remembered that she had made a gift for him too. Charon didn't expect to hear that. The girl said she would show it to him a little later. At this time, he thought that the heiress who possessed gold and precious stones had made a gift for him as well. Charon asked the girl, by any chance is his gift not made of remelted minerals? Lucullus was surprised and asked how he knew that. The machine said to hurry up, so he sped up. The goddess said she owed him a great debt, so she had prepared something better. When they arrived at the shore, the girl showed her gift. It was vodka, made entirely of gold, for Charon. The man had not expected to see such a thing. Lucullus said it is entirely solid gold, and the chair was encrusted with diamonds and topazes for added elegance. She said that the feed was, of course, her face. She then asked him if he liked the gift. At this moment, Charon thought that if he transported the dead in a golden boat, but in such simple clothes, they would simply stop being afraid of him. Rain will only look at the gold, which they don't mind taking. Everyone will mock him, thinking that he must have spent all his money on the gold boat and just didn't have enough for clothes. Let's go, Charon said to the girl, as much as the girl would dare to express only gratitude. Lucullus was surprised and asked why, for Hephaestus had tried very hard. Charon said that the boat itself was heavy enough he would have trouble transporting the dead. But then he changed the subject, saying that about her talking to Hermes. The girl confirmed and said that he told her that she didn't understand the meaning of love. I thought he was wrong to do that, because it was a sore subject for Lucullus. The girl said he was wrong. She is, after all, a very loving goddess. The Luculles love a father who adores his mother to the point of madness. Persephone who flirts with humans, silly dead people and fairies, Tantalus and Sisyphus, Cerberus. And the girl is also very fond of Charon. And in general, she treasures everyone. The man said that he would consider it a compliment, but he thought that he was put in the last place after the dog. Lucullus asked him if she had ever said she hated her mom, and added that the queen of the underworld is irresponsible. Haran said that it certainly couldn't be called praise. The girl said that even though she preferred the pretty boy to her own daughter, she didn't think she was so bad, and the goddess said the problem was that she hated her. Is that what you are? she asked as Karen gave her speech. The man asked, didn't she remember? Lucallus didn't understand what he meant, and then the man explained that a few years ago, when Psyche had entered the underworld on behalf of Aphrodite to borrow some beauty from Persephone, Lucallus said she was much prettier than her mom and asked, why ask for beauty? In the end, Persephone gave her not beauty but a death sleep. Lucallus said that Psyche was really much better, but Karen said that was not all, and reminded her of the situation when the king of the Lapiths, Pirithous, wanted Persephone to be his wife. And the girl said that he had very strange taste in women. Horan said that she had probably heard Lucullus laughing at her then. Then the girl said that her mother must learn to contain her resentment. Heron replied that he wanted to see her grown up as soon as possible. That was his wish. But the girl said that she already knew what love was, that it was closer to sympathy. Karen said that love is not about forcing and holding on. It is a feeling where you are willing to let go of another. The girl was surprised and asked what kind of love is it when you have to let go, and sometimes he says things too complicated for her to understand. After a while, Lucallus came over to watch the fight. Hey, newbie, do you even know who I am? The first warrior asked, and said that there wasn't a person in the entire faction who hadn't heard of Aphrodite. A Thrace is a historical area, a former Roman province in the east of the Balkan Peninsula. His opponent said he was a Thracian hillbilly and asked if he had already attacked. The girl said that it was very interesting, because these people fought all their lives and continue even after death. A man came up to her and asked her who she was rooting for now. Lucallus said she was in favor of Telsai today. She was sorry he wasn't very handsome in the face, but his skills weren't bad after all. But then suddenly, another man intervened in their conversation, and said that if so, he would leave on the little girl of the underworld. Thanatos, the god of death, came to see them. She said that they had not seen each other for a long time, and asked if he had had much in the meantime. He said there was a lot to do, and then asked what it was that the girl had behind her back. Explained to him that they lay in this golden boat. Lucallus asked the god of death if she was beautiful, and explained that Haran had refused her, so she had to leave her here. She would use it as a luxury chair. She was sorry, of course, but she knew there was nothing she could do about it. Thanatos sat down and said, quite comfortable in it. Afterwards, he said he'd heard rumors that she'd stolen the dead a while ago. Oh, about that again, Lucallus said. But the god of death said there were proper rules and procedures in the underworld. We are all dead men, crossing the river Styx in the boats of Charon to stand before the great judgment, where it will be decided whether punishment will follow for sins committed while alive. And only after that Lucallus should send everyone under their seats. The girl said she knew that. Then Thanatos got angry and asked why she didn't. He said that there would soon be an inheritance transfer ceremony on Olympus, and after receiving the power of resurrection, she would perform important tasks in the underworld. Thanatos told her to stop fooling around already, and she would start preparing for her role. Lucallus said she would do her best. When the god of death wanted to scold the girl for descending into Tartarus, Lucallus quickly interrupted him and said that the people downstairs were making a lot of noise. She walked to the edge and looked over the mountain. Back then, she said, trying to change the subject. But the girl wasn't listening to him and said it was mostly young girls there. She wondered what had happened if so many young women had gotten in there. She speculated that it might have been a fight over a man, said it may have been due to Dionysus or drowning in a river due to alcohol. And there are also a very large number of people who killed each other because of excitement. He said it was better not to go near them because they were followers of Dionysus. After that, they came back to the boat. She said she understood, but she wondered why he called them followers. She said she understood, but she wondered why he called them followers. After a short silence, Thanatos said that these people were destroyed by Dionysus because of his lust. The girl interjected. Did he do it because of carnal pleasure? And at that moment, she remembered Hermes coming up to her once and saying that he had heard she was transporting dead people again. Afterward, he asked if she wanted to paddle again. The girl replied that she just thought she could row as well as Heron. She said that besides, they themselves were not a gift. Hermes agreed with her and said that nevertheless they should still love and care for people. As much as it is natural for them to worship the gods should help in return. He said she should visit the mortal world after all, and asked if she could imagine how good it was there. There's sunshine, beautiful women, food and flowers. But Lucullus said that even though it is beautiful there, every day they will still end up here. Said that the underworld couldn't enrich her mind, could it? Well, the girl replied that she was fine as she was. Love and care. These were the words everyone kept repeating. But contrary to how the girl thought, the gods are much worse, and they're not so holy. After a brief silence, Thanatos turned to the girl and told her that the gods were not as perfect as she thought. At that moment she remembered the words of Sisyphus, who had said that the gods do what they will. Lucullus repeated these words aloud and said that a dead man she knew had said something similar. The next day, Oasis was very anxious because the ceremony to hand over the inheritance to Lucullus was about to take place, and she didn't know the best way to style her hair. The goddess asked if the jewelry was too much. Would it attract too much attention? The girl was all worked up. Ares told her to calm down, but the girl asked how she could calm down because this was the first visit to Olympus since Lucullus had tasted the milk of Hera. Oasis said they can't have her being criticized for anything. Everyone should be excited about her visit. Suddenly, the god of criticism named Mom intervened. He said, "Isn't anything going to happen at all?" As Lucullus walked home, or else she pondered Thanatos's words. He had called them followers of Dionysus. It was the first time she had ever seen the god of death hate someone so much. She wondered if Dionysus really did kill people just for fun. Mercy for those who fear, and despair for those who defy. This has always been the relationship between humans and gods. The girl thought that if she asked Oasis or anyone else about it, she would make them worry, and she didn't want that. So she would have to find out for herself. And then Lucullus returned to Tartarus. On the first day she met Sisyphus, she had thought him a rude man. "Wow, what a little babe you are. You're a goddess, aren't you?" Sisyphus said to her then. It amused her greatly to watch him roll that ball over and over again. Lucullus, he seemed unbearably stupid. He had once called her a goddess of standard thinking. Lucullus had answered him then that she was just a free bird, understood what a man like him was trying to understand. To this Sisyphus says, "That is because I cannot understand." Thereupon he said that they were very different. When she came to him this time, he looked at the mountain and rejoiced, asking the little goddess if she could see that the top of the mountain had been erased. The girl looked up and saw that quite a bit of it had indeed been wiped away. Sisyphus said that a little more, and he would be able to lift the boulder. When the girl asked what that meant, he replied that he had gone away to overcome the punishment of the gods. Sisyphus was always overflowing with anger and despair, smiling radiantly, and his eyes shone with happiness. The girl thought it was very strange, because he even sang, and she suddenly wondered why Sisyphus had ended up in Tartarus after all. She had seen him many times, but she had never asked him why. This man has always despised the gods, and she knows just that. She didn't leave because she thought that when they met, she would ask some questions. Lucullus thought Sisyphus would tell her about Dionysus and love, because he always tells her about something. Well, when she ran closer to the mountain, she heard nothing. Normally Tantalus sits there, but right now there was nothing but utter darkness. At that moment, she realized that she had most likely gone deep into the depths of Tartarus, the place she had always been forbidden to go. She must have gotten the wrong road, and Lucullus realized that she urgently needed to go back. She ordered herself not to be afraid, to calm down and gather her thoughts. Yes, she walked for a while. Then she saw a light and decided to run towards it. When she got there, she started to hear different voices. Someone asked, "Is that Hades?" Then the same voice said that apparently not, and that it was a young goddess. After that, many voices began to say, "Young goddess." One of them said she smelled of death. They kept repeating the word, "young goddess." The skeletons said that the young goddess, who had not been here for a long time, would give them pleasure. Lucullus stopped, unable to say or do anything. Lucullus stood staring at hundreds of pairs of distorted empty eye sockets to the point of horror, and smelled the strong odor of death. And the voices kept saying that the young goddess would give them much pleasure. Long ago, Zeus's grandfather Uranus, seeing the hecatonaires that Gaia had given birth to, sent them to the very bottom of Tartarus. Zeus raised them from the bottom to the middle of the underworld. However, concerned about the future, he locked them back into Tartarus. Sitting there and looking at them, Lucullus realized that she would never go against the inhibitions again, and she would never go to Tartarus again. No fooling around. She really wants to save herself and run away from there. She remembered Thanatos' words telling her to be careful, because young goddesses like her would be torn to pieces. But then suddenly the girl heard another very familiar voice. "I hope you keep your word," he said. Momentarily, voices started asking why he was here and why he had come. The girl also asked him how he got there, but he said it was time to go back. It was Thanatos, the god of death. He told Lucalis that she never listened to others, and then asked if she had convinced herself of everything and how dangerous it was there. But he said they would talk a little later about it, because right now she had to get her out of there. As they left Tartarus, Thanatos started yelling at the girl. "Ask her what she was even thinking! With all the gods telling her of the danger, did she think it was all a joke?" "I looked in there today just in case," Thanatos continued to yell at the girl, getting louder and louder with each word. Then he asked the girl if she had any idea how worried everyone was. And after that he added that from now on, Lucalis was forbidden to enter Tartarus. When the goddess heard this, she was shocked. Thanatos said she was forbidden to go in there for fun and without permission. When Lucalis wanted to explain that she wasn't going in there for fun, Thanatos interrupted her and asked if she understood the rules or not. When the girl realized it was useless to argue, she replied that she understood everything and apologized. Thanatos said she was definitely Hades' daughter. When he came to Tartarus, he asked the monster how he dared to touch her. After that he asked, could it be that Hecatomachus wants to be locked in Tartarus for the rest of his existence? The monster began to say that he was lying, because why would Hades' daughter come to Tartarus? He didn't believe any of it. Thanatos told the girl that if she thinks things ended well just because they did, that she was wrong. She should always stay focused. After a long silence, he said that everyone was very scared, and Oasis even grabbed his clothes, and even managed to turn a few feathers because of excitement. When Thanatos showed the plucked feathers, Lucalis was shocked. He said that if the girl understood everything, then let her not do such stupid things again. At that moment, she thought that she would not go to Tartarus for a while. But this was the first time she had ever seen Thanatos so angry. He told her to remember that everyone cared about her and her safety. Lucalis thought that she would let her body rest first, and next time she would be careful. But then suddenly Thanatos stood up and said she would take an oath. The girl was shocked, and then the man explained that he said this about swearing by the river Styx. When he saw the disappointment on Lucalis's face, he asked, did she really think she was going to get away with it again? The oath that was made on the river Styx cannot be broken, not even by the gods. And if you break it, you will fall into a deep sleep for a year. But this year lasts 9 worldly years, and besides, you are cast out of Olympus during that time. When they came to the river, he told the girl to swear that she would never go to Tartarus again. Lucalis said the ceremony would be soon. If she can't go near Tartarus, how will she fulfill her duties? But Thanatos said that when she grows up, then she can go there. The girl asked, what if something bad happens in the underworld and she has no choice but to go to Tartarus? Thanatos said she could go there in that case. But of course nothing like that would happen. Then Lucalis turned to the river and said that she swore her name before the river Styx. After she got home, she went straight to bed. Oasis, sitting next to the girl, said that her face had gotten half as big. The other gods sat next to her, and then Eris said that the girl would soon meet the inhabitants of Olympus. Oasis said that from the day she was born, Lucalis had always wanted this. But Eris interrupted the goddess and said that with this girl there is not a day of peace. Eris even heard that Lucalis had a chance to see the followers of Dionysus at your place. Then suddenly another god came into their room and said that it was a problem because the feast of Dionysus is even famous for its madness. Drives his followers mad, turns them into pigs and slaughters them. The god of dreams, Oneros, asked, where does such madness come from? Eris said there's nothing they can do about it anymore because they've been around for so many years, and it's become the norm. Oasis said she understood. But still, some say that the lower gods even go mad. That's better, of course. But still, a life without stimulus is enough to make you want to disappear. The only entertainment is hearing the screams of people waking up after a nightmare. That's the only thing Oneros can enjoy. Among the supreme gods, you can count on the fingers of your hand those who have decent entertainment. For example, Zeus, who sows seeds everywhere, Artemis, who eats the fruits of animals, and Oneros incites people to incite wars. An immortal body doesn't save him from boredom. He thought it must be true that half the dead people here are the fault of the gods, an unbearable life that he has no way of giving up. Eventually he meets her. What a beautiful, defenseless girl. Lucallus grew up with these gods because Hades entrusted her to them. A child who could barely speak began to walk. And so completely unnoticed, several years have passed, a frightening, uplifting sense of joy. Oneros sat next to the girl's bed and told her that when she grew up, her immortal body would overpower her mind as well, and only a dull future lay ahead of her. He thought it would be better if she stayed this small and carefree forever. Then suddenly Arab came to him and said that the child must grow up because the passage of time cannot be stopped. The girl is doomed to live forever. You can't live your life without learning anything about the underworld. Oneros said he knew and understood all of this too, but it would be better for him if she stayed with them longer. After the incident in Tartarus, the overprotection of that gods had gotten worse. Oasis told the girl that she would follow her around all day and control her every action. Eris suggested using a listening device. She said she could ask Hermes about it. One of the gods said that it would be better to use a crystal ball then. She rejected the idea because it was difficult to carry the ball around. Then Oneros suggested that maybe it would be better to limit her going out to once a week. Oasis said that sounded like a good idea, but at that moment the girl ran away. Lucallus came running into a thicket of reeds near the river Styx. All of you there, she thought. This is all just crazy. The girl said that the gods had simply gone mad, for she had been living peacefully and quietly lately, not even walking in Tartarus. Suddenly the reed fairies flew up to her and noticed that the girl was back in their field, but Lucallus didn't notice them. She looked to the side and saw a very handsome boy. She wondered who he was. Lucallus thought it was a daffodil, but then she remembered it had light purple hair. This one had white, but then suddenly the boy looked in her direction. Then she decided to climb out of the reeds and said that she was just there. But before she could finish, she said that he was very handsome. The boy was immediately confused. He had not expected such a thing. At that moment, Lucallus thought that the frightened one was even more handsome. She had heard that the boy her mother was interested in was handsome, but this one was simply unbelievable. After a final long silence, the stranger said that the goddess was exaggerating. Lucallus said she didn't think she'd seen him before among the dead, and asked how he knew she was a goddess. Every time Persephone is spoken of, another name is mentioned. Then the girl began to look at it carefully. She noticed the sparkling blonde hair, the clear sea-colored eyes. When the girl said that of those present here, there was only one over whom she could smell the odor of the living. Lucallus asked the boy, "You are Adonis, aren't you?" Then the boy said that he saluted the goddess. Adonis is Persephone's lover, the handsome lover of Aphrodite. Once Aphrodite came to Hades and told him that Adonis, whom she loved so much, had become Persephone's lover and was now in the underworld. She asked him to bring Adonis back to her. Even though he was dead, she could revive him, and he would live with her. But at that moment, Persephone ran into the room and said that Adonis was already dead anyway. Let Hades not take away her only joy. 6 months in the world of the living and 6 months in the underworld. Hades offered them these terms. Adonis has become quite famous in the underworld for flirting with the two goddesses, doing whatever he pleases. Every night he flirts with Persephone and enjoys himself. These words now describe Adonis. But now, standing in front of Lucallus, he was nervous, and said that he understood that her image was tainted in her eyes, and she probably knows all the rumors about him. He said the goddess could be his all he wanted. Lucallus realized that the boy in front of her was nothing like the one from the rumors. Here was this humble boy who had seduced two goddesses. Lucallus was surprised that he was actually famous for it. Then she wondered if she should start living with this handsome boy too. Lucallus asked him why she would hit him. Today wasn't the first time they had met. "Ah, you really think so?" asked Adonis. A boy who plays with two goddesses at once, she had already envisioned a more experienced seducer, Lucallus thought as they met. If not the stream dammed or she'd get a couple slaps or have her hair grabbed, she knew better than to believe all those rumors. The goddess asked where his mother was and why he was alone. Adonis explained that he had asked to be released to see the underworld, but in fact, he should be on his way back soon. The girl thought her mother should slow down. After that, Lucallus asked where he had already been. The boy replied that since leaving Elysium, he had only been here. The girl said that Chance didn't believe them. He had spent so many years in the underworld, but had only seen Elysium and the river Styx. She asked, "Is such a thing possible?" She'd heard, of course, that Persephone spent days on end with him. But was it really that bad? Lucallus said there are so many places in the underworld that are a must-see. She started to walk away and said, "Really, there's the Golden Palace in Cerberus. Haven't you even played with skeleton bones?" The girl thought he was much more polite than she expected, and he seemed to be a good man. She thought she could help him look around. Lucallus turned to the boy and asked, meaning this was the first time he had gone out like this alone. She said that so-and-so, she's quite an important person, would show him around the underworld. Back then, Lucallus didn't know that her life would change drastically because of these two goddesses. As they walked, the girl asked if he could see the place where the light was coming from. She explained that it was one of the entrances to the underworld. The children were sailing on Charon's boat. As they sailed along, Lucallus said that this is Cape Tyrone, not far from Sparta. There are many more. She really couldn't believe he had only seen the Styx. Lucallus said that if you swim upstream in the river, you can see the golden palace of the goddess Styx, and even if he just takes a boat ride to the judge's crowns, he'll meet Cerberus. Besides, if you go through the gate. But then suddenly Heron interrupted her immediately. He asked Lucallus who it was with her, because he hadn't transported the living since Orpheus. Charon was once punished for spending from a man on a boat mesmerized by the music of Orpheus. The girl asked if he knew who the boy was. "I told her his name is Adonis." Charon asked if this was the same Adonis he had heard a lot about. When Lucallus confirmed, Heron said, "Hey, come on, tell me sooner rather than later that I heard that." The girl said that Adonis had a somewhat close relationship with her mom. Charon turned away unhappily. Then the girl said that he was actually much kinder than he seemed. He calls her a goddess from time to time, and the rumors were definitely not true. If we're talking about favoring a handsome man, it means he sleeps with a goddess, giving her pleasure. And he does it with two goddesses. It means he's used to dealing with the opposite sex. Heron didn't understand what Lucallus was thinking, getting involved with this guy. Heron got so angry thinking about it that he broke his paddle. When the girl noticed it, he explained that it was really just old. Lucallus said that she had told him to change it for gold, hadn't she? At this moment, Charon thought that indeed, Persephone was the reason the girl was having a hard time. Then the man turned to the children and asked, "Did you steal it secretly? Because Persephone wouldn't just let it go." Lucallus said she wasn't stupid and laughed. Then Heron replied that he didn't mean it. Lucallus explained that he was just standing by the river. She thought she could walk with him if she got him back in time later, and asked if he had been released. At that moment she turned to the boy and asked, "He was walking alone in the underworld." Adonis said that he looked around alone, but only waited for the goddess to finish her preparations. When Lucallus heard this, she was desperate and asked why he had not told her. The guy said he thought she had Persephone's permission. The girl screamed and asked how she could have gotten it, since he himself knows what kind of relationship he has with her mom. Lucallus said that now the fun tour of the underworld was ruined. Persephone won't let it go. Adonis tells her not to worry so much because Persephone doesn't hate her. She's just sorry, so she keeps her distance. In other words, Persephone also has an open heart. Well, all of a sudden the girl's mouth was agape. The guy asked the goddess if she had gotten sick, if her stomach hurt. But the girl started laughing very loudly. After a brief fit of laughter, calming down, Lucallus said, "She's sorry. Is that why she's keeping her distance? Do you really think so?" Every night Persephone cries in bed. She didn't want this and longed for something else. A goddess who had been kind and gentle until now. She had shed so many tears to this. The fact that she didn't love Lucallus was very hard to believe. Adonis told her. Lucallus said that her mother had tried to throw her into the river when she was a child. This expression, these words, the girl remembered for the rest of her life. The last long swim they had, Lucallus told the boy that she liked him. He's smart and a good listener, and he's also very handsome. So she asked that he not say such stupid things anymore, then couldn't date much more often. When the boy wanted to answer something, they had already reached the shore. The fairies immediately helped Adonis out of the boat and asked him how he was feeling. As the girl walked a little deeper into the forest, she met Persephone on her way. She told her mother that it had been a long time since they had seen each other, but the woman slapped her on the cheek and told her she was scum. At that moment the girl thought to look more closely at Adonis. Persephone grabbed the girl by her dress and said that they did look alike, she and Hades. Persephone said that, Besides, it was wonderful for her to be able to grab her like that. They're so much alike. He forcibly took the one that resisted him. That's how he likes to do what he wants. Persephone said she doesn't want Hades. She doesn't love him. She's been dreaming of grabbing him by the throat all this time. Suddenly, Charon came up from behind and told the queen to think about her reputation. So she asked him what he was doing. Charon said that there were a lot of people watching around. When Persephone looked around, she saw many people watching her. Persephone, seeing Adonis, ran up to him, hugged him, and asked him if he was hurt. The boy replied that he was fine. Lucallus told Charon that she was fine and he could go. Then the man said she had a wound. But the girl said it was nothing and he still had a lot to do. Persephone, having stopped hugging Adonis, said it was time for them to go back. When they left, Lucallus thought her mother had gone too far. She didn't think Persephone would slap her. The goddess's obsession with her frightened her. When the fairies started to leave, they whispered back, saying that the rumors were true and it was very funny. When Lucallus heard all this, she ran up to the fairy and stabbed her with one finger. When the fairy landed, the girl asked if she served as queen of the underworld, looking down on the princess. The fairy said it was all wrong. The girl hit her again so that blood came out of her. And she said how could she let some fairies laugh at her? Lucallus tells the fairy that punishment follows for mocking the goddess. Does she serve Persephone but doesn't know it? The fairy started to apologize, but the girl told her to try to continue using her mom's authority, because besides her, Persephone has so many other fairies who are willing to serve. When Lucallus returned home, Thanatos met her and asked if Persephone was the cause. The girl said of course, because who else would dare to hit her in the face? Thanatos told them to go and apply the ointment, but the girl said she didn't want to. Thanatos told her to stop being stubborn, but Lucallus said she didn't want everyone to see her like that, because all the gods will immediately make a very big fuss and start worrying. Started to leave. Thanatos said that as soon as she felt better, she should come to the palace right away. When Lucallus was first approaching the exit, she thought that she probably should have hit her back too. This situation was really annoying her. The more she thinks about it, the more absurd it seems. The girl came to the reception room in front of the palace. She asked Pirithous, who confessed his love to Persephone, and his friend and hero Theseus, "Have you ever heard of someone who wanted to be born himself?" Lucallus said she was only putting up with it so she wouldn't offend her dad, and asked what they all found in Persephone. The girl asked the guys if she was licking or hanging on Adonis. Regardless of her feelings, Lucallus, time goes by very quickly, and when she came to her senses, it was time to go to Olympus. Oasis asked the girl what the etiquette of entry was, and if she remembered the lineage of the gods. She told her not to take carelessly what the gods gave, and to stay close to Hermes, and not to die for anything yet. The girl thought she was being sent off to war, or how the rules were so strict. Oasis said she should go through the inheritance ceremony and return safely, and they would wait for her there. Next time they would go together. Lucallus thought that everyone was treating her like a child, and it made her feel so uncomfortable. She didn't understand that the gods themselves didn't go there. What was there to worry about? But the worst part for Lucallus was that the dress, though dressy, was very uncomfortable. By then she was out of the forest. Thanatos was there waiting for her, and he asked why she was late. He thought the girl would come earlier, so he asked if she had something wrong. He also asked how her face was. Lucallus said that Oasis had fixed everything, and asked where her daddy was now. Thanatos said he'd be here soon, and the girl asked why there were so many people. The girl asked if they had all gathered to see her off. Thanatos said that if they had, they would have greeted her. When the girl got in the carriage, she said it wasn't funny. In the car just advises her not to get seduced. When Lucallus looked out of the carriage, she asked why Persephone was there then. It hadn't been long since their last meeting. They ran into each other again. The girl asked Thanatos why there was no one to see her off. She said, not that she thought it was stupid, just that Persephone wouldn't come alone. Lucallus, why is she here for that rose? She's her child. The girl thought she came because she felt guilty about what happened, but she didn't. The girl didn't show her best side either when she beat up the fairy. Then about this, Lucallus said that for a long time Persephone had been cold to Hades, and would not have cared for her for anything. Suddenly her eyes were covered by Thanatos's hand. He tried to make her walk back into the carriage. The girl saw her mother kissing Adonis. She asked the man, "Are those sounds coming from tongues?" That is the secret of rejuvenation. Thanatos said it was nothing like that. Lucallus said that he probably won the hearts of the two goddesses with that. and said that she too then with such a handsome man. Suddenly her voice broke through the dugout. Looking up, she said it sounded like someone was coming down. Oasis's training has proven to be very rewarding. Blonde wavy hair, only one goddess as beautiful as a swan, and Lucalis saw Aphrodite descending from the sky. She couldn't believe it, and when Lucalis saw Aphrodite, she immediately understood everything. All these people had come to see Aphrodite, not her. The girl thought that it was quite logical. Aphrodite walked over to the boy and told Adonis that he couldn't even imagine how much she had missed him for the past 6 months. And at that moment they kissed. The girl couldn't believe her eyes. Lucalis had the impression that the underworld was filled with colors. Then she realized that Aphrodite had acted rather cruelly towards Persephone. She realized that her mother was no better either. Thanatos turned away and said it wasn't worth looking at. The girl asked why, because it was a new experience. Lucalis said that right now seeing Persephone sucking him in made her realize. Well then suddenly Thanatos immediately covered her face with his hand and said that such things were not for children. The girl didn't understand what this had to do with children. Was he counting age by human standards? The man said that the sight might upset her. The girl replied that she liked it very much. Thanatos told her to shut up already. But Lucalis bit his finger and said that there was no way the goddess was giving up. He replied that she was a wild animal, not a goddess. Then the girl heard that Aphrodite and the boy were about to leave. She told Thanatos that she should be sure to say hello. And immediately she ran out of the carriage. She shouted to Aphrodite to wait. The young couple stopped at once. The girl bowed and said her name was Lucalis. Aphrodite asked if she was Hades's child. But then suddenly Aphrodite got embarrassed and said that she must have seen everything, and justified herself by saying that she just missed Adonis a lot. Lucalis couldn't understand how she could be so cute when she was embarrassed. Aphrodite said that they had seen each other once, just born, and also added that she was old enough. Aphrodite kissed the girl on the forehead and said that she had heard that she was going to the succession ceremony on Olympus. She hoped that the girl would soon become the great goddess, succeeding Hades. Lucalis thanked her and thought to herself that she would not wash today, because she was kissed by the most beautiful goddess in the world. And then she would also show off in front of Hermes. But when she looked at Adonis, she realized that it was as if all her feelings were written on her forehead. Aphrodite said that the dress suited her very well. She got distracted and told Hades that it had been a long time since they had seen each other. Lucalis, hearing this, immediately turned and ran to her father. Hades said that Aphrodite was right, and the dress really suited her. Aphrodite asked why Hades is so hard to meet. She knows he doesn't like to just go out, but she asked that he visit Olympus from time to time, because otherwise she might even forget what he looked like. Hades said he would try. Aphrodite was satisfied with that answer, and she said she would go first then. She waved everyone into the carriage and said that they would all meet on Olympus. As they flew away, Hades said she finally left and asked why she was talking so much. Lucalis was amazed at how beautiful she was, and then suddenly Thanatos came up behind them and told them that it was time for them to go, and wished Lucalis to stay out of trouble. The girl said she wouldn't get in, and then Thanatos wished Hades well on his way back without making too much noise. The books describe the world as very colorful. Though the sky is the same, the colors are different. Any description and praise cannot fully convey this beauty. Hades looked out the window with his daughter and asked her if she could see the world Hermes had described to her so many times. Lucalis said that it was more marvelous than she had thought. Her father asked her if she liked it. Then the girl said that of course she liked it, and such beauty could make you blind. As Persephone kissed Adonis, Lucalis thought how good it was that Daddy wasn't around. But she wondered if he'd really just happened to linger. Her father, who took care of everything related to her mother, must have known that Adonis had to leave today, Lucalis thought. Ever since Persephone had told him to stay away, the girl had been tormented by one question. If she hadn't looked so much like her father, her mother wouldn't have been Persephone. Would she be loved then? But the girl realized that this was a stupid question, because even thinking she was like her mother would not get her love. Even if she resembled Persephone in appearance, she would remain the daughter of the one who took her by force. This is the unchanging truth. Well, of course Hades wanted the girl to resemble her mom. Lucalis wondered if she should ask him about it, but she's afraid that if even her daddy doesn't love her, she won't be able to anymore. When Hades noticed that the girl was sad, He asked her if she had seen enough of the view. Lucallus replied that everything was very beautiful. At this moment in Tartarus, the red-haired man thought that this day had finally arrived, and now he could kill this cheeky bastard. When Lucallus came to Olympus, she saw everyone chanting wine and even splashing wine. The real Olympus is very different from her expectations. The girl was presented with snow-white flowers of amazing beauty. She didn't think there was anything more beautiful than the jewels of the underworld until she received these flowers. Also, the king of the gods, Zeus, was amazingly beautiful. He took her on his lap and said that when he first saw her, he could lift her with one hand. He also asked when the girl had grown so much. His son Eros had once been small like that, but now he had become a pest. Zeus asked if the girl was bored a lot in the underworld. Lucallus replied that it was not bad there either. Then he asked her how she liked Olympus. She answered that it was very beautiful there, and then Zeus said that he was glad she liked it. After that, he asked if she knew about the duties of the goddess of rebirth. The girl thought he was probably testing her, but replied that she knew everything. She is supposed to bring people back to Earth who have been trapped in the underworld due to an accident. Anything that has lost strength over the winter needs to be breathed back into life in anticipation of spring. After the sinner has paid for his deeds, help him find a new thread of fate, such as those like Tantalus, to revive him in the world of the living. Hearing all this, Zeus said that she was very detailed and replied that she was definitely the daughter of Hades. But she has another very important duty. When the girl asked him what gift he was giving her, he said that she was able to raise the dead, and no other god of Olympus has this ability. Even Zeus, who is the strongest of all, cannot resurrect. There are threads of entanglement in everything, but the three goddesses of fate are not to be touched when it comes to the length of life. Its duration is very important, especially when it comes to a human being. Lucallus said that if he was worried she would abuse it, she vowed not to interfere with human life or death. She thinks there's nothing special about them, just a habitat changed to the underworld. Zeus asked if that was the reason why the young goddess would not leave the land of Hades. He asked her not to disturb the order at will. The girl told him not to worry. On Zeus, she said that was reassuring, but the other gods think differently, and their train of thought is complicated in a different way. Here, for example, is Aphrodite and her lover Adonis. Even afterward, she continues to share him with another. And now she would definitely be asking Lucallus to resurrect him. The girl laughed and said that anything was possible. She said that if you think of it that way, he gives off the smell of a dead man. That's right, man has his limit, Zeus answered her. Adonis is long gone, as well as his loved ones, so the resurrection does not disturb the order. Moreover, Aphrodite will always be there for him. Lucallus thought it was all true, of course, but Persephone would just lose her mind. Zeus said that, to be honest, he'd like to ask for a lot of people himself, but being the chief god, he couldn't be that careless. But Zeus became more serious and asked Lucallus, when she broke the ban and descended into Tartarus, if she remembered who she met at the bottom. The girl said that of course she remembered very well. Then he said that was enough, and some gods should not be indulged. He then stood up and said that the inheritance ceremony could begin. He turned to the girl and said that he hoped she would make only wise decisions in the future. Lucallus said that she would remember his words, and then the ceremony began. Zeus said, "Princess of the underworld and goddess of rebirth." He, Zeus, king of all the gods, gives her the power of resurrection. At that moment the girl thought that now they were all watching, they were full of greed and desire. She wondered if this gift would be an advantage or a problem. Maybe that was what Zeus wanted to show her, the majestic and beautiful Olympus. The girl realized that this is the way it should be. Then Zeus told everyone to welcome the goddess of rebirth. After the ceremony was over, Hermes approached Lucallus and asked her how she liked Olympus. The girl replied that she was still looking around. Hermes said that she had already received beautiful flowers and had seen many things. Then the girl said that Olympus was much more colorful than the underworld, so she wouldn't be stubborn. And then the girl said that Banquet Olympus was a little different from what she had envisioned. Suddenly they looked at Zeus, who started kissing. Lucallus asked if it was too lewd. Hermes then said that unlike the underworld, everyone here was open. Thanatos had the same reaction. The girl wondered if he was having as much fun as they were. She just thought he wasn't interested. Hermes said that it was really just to have a few drinks and leave, just like Hades. Honestly, the gods of the underworld seem so simple compared to the rest of the world. Hermes asked if that's why there are rumors that the underworld is boring. Lucallus replied that she has never once seen him touch a woman. On the contrary, she said he cripples them. Hermes then replied that he felt sorry for him. At that moment, he pulled a woman who was passing by to him and said that, after all, he had not known true pleasure. The girl starts telling Hermes to let her go. He and she don't want that. Lucallus saw all this and got very angry. Hermes said to the girl, "And what is it that you don't want? Tell me. Did I see you keep looking?" But then Lucallus suddenly jumped on him and asked him if he couldn't understand words. Does he have to use brute force? As Hermes fell to the floor, the girl asked what he was doing. He's a god, of course, but it's not okay, because this girl said she didn't want to. She told Hermes that they would talk about his behavior later, then turned to the girl and asked if everything was okay. The girl thanked her and ran away. Lucallus didn't understand what was happening. Hermes started to get up and asked, "Oh, what's it going to be like for you later? Did she like it?" Lucallus said she liked it. Lucallus didn't realize it, but Hermes laughed a lot.